Auckland is back to COVID-19 alert level 3, the rest of the country to level 2 for 7 days. Joining me is Business New Zealand CEO Kirk Hope. Well, this one is slightly longer than the 3-day lockdown a couple of weeks back, Kirk, but this means funding access pretty much straight away. 4 different packages available. Do you want to go through them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so what we've got is we've got an income support payment which is available to people who have to isolate for 2 weeks. So that's really to keep them out of the workplace. There's a short-term absence payment, which is available for a payment of $350, which is available to people who need to be out of the workplace while they get tested. There is the wage subsidy, which has come back into play because of the 7-day timeframe for the alert level increase. And then there's the resurgence support payment, which is a one-off payment that businesses may be able to access where they've had some significant costs impacting them. So a pretty broad array of support available. We're continuing to work with the CTU and the government on the potential to expand the scope, if you like, or the quantum for the income support payment. That's to really make sure that people do the right thing and don't come into the workplace, that employers can make sure that they're messaging that to people to say, stay home, please self-isolate, because we really can't afford to keep going into these alert level increases.
Do you think now that the risks are becoming more and more apparent, the more times we go into lockdown, that people now really are taking that message quite seriously and literally, where they say, if you have a cold or if you have any symptoms, do not come into work?
Look, I think it's variable, to be perfectly honest. I think that we probably need to, as a business community, continue to reiterate that message pretty clearly through workplaces. I think it's useful for employees to understand that they don't need to come into work, that their employer can access support for them. So, I mean, I just think we probably need to really focus on that as a way of keeping out those increased alert levels.
All right, how do businesses apply? Because there was some talk that businesses couldn't get onto the IRD website, which was down for maintenance over the weekend. That's now back up and running. But where do you recommend that businesses go to find out more?
Businesses people who are employers and employees should go to the COVID-19 website. That essentially details the support that's available and who you need to apply to get it, whether it's the Inland Revenue or the Ministry for Social Development. There are a range of different support mechanisms, as I've just described before, available. So go to that COVID-19 website. It details everything from a business perspective and also from an individual perspective that's available and where to go.
What's the feedback you're getting from businesses with regard to the QR code in terms of enforcing, if you like, the rules? If you're not going to use it, don't come into our store, because again, you're risking everybody.
Yeah, generally what we're seeing is, again, it's variable. Businesses aren't necessarily always enforcing it, and people aren't always using it. I think it's really incumbent on people to start to make sure they use it. It's the quickest way that we can identify people who might have been in close contact or might have been in contact with someone who may have tested positive for COVID, and that way, that is another one of the ways that we can prevent having to go into alert level 3s. That's quick contact tracing of people who might have been in the pathway of COVID, if you like.
But no talk about businesses bringing in stricter rules themselves and saying, no, if you don't do it, you're not coming in.
Look, I think some businesses have said that to their customers, and I think it's probably going to be more critical over the next period of time. I mean, one of the challenging issues would be if the country in general went to alert level 3, because I think around the country it is going to be variable in terms of people's usage of those QR codes. The key thing is it's pretty easy with the app. You should do it, and businesses can always say you can't come in. Again, businesses are always going to want to do that. You don't necessarily want, as a business owner, to be a police person, if you like. But I guess it's serious enough that if you have to, you have to.
The Restaurant Association said the alert level change would potentially be the nail in the coffin for some business owners, and they're calling on the government to put in place a tailored financial package to help the struggling restaurant sector. What's your view on that?
Look, I think they probably, if you're looking at sectors that probably really need a bit more specific assistance, because they are the hardest hit, and they have been hit for a long period of time. I mean, bear in mind this thing's been around for more than a year now, and the retail, hospitality, and tourism sectors were the very first to be hit hard, because foot traffic declined as the tourism sector declined, as people stopped traveling. And they continue to be hit hard. Every time we have an alert level 3, they are the businesses that can't operate. Many businesses can operate safely. They are a face-to-face business. They can't. So I think they have a strong argument for some more targeted support to help keep some of those businesses operating.
I think the Prime Minister made it pretty clear when they were talking about cancelling some sporting events, that the people running the events are the ones taking the risk, and it is a risk, and you won't necessarily get compensation. So you really have to think about these things before you, I guess, commit to them, don't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I think there's a couple of things. It's the risk, and you're not necessarily going to know that risk. I wonder if the government can continue to communicate, clearly about a bit more quickly as well when they start to see some things happening. Because what has tended to happen is they've made a decision quite late. You saw the one on Saturday night, 9 o'clock. So I just wonder if there's a better mechanism for communicating with the public about and warning them we may be need to go into another alert level lockdown, be prepared. So just a little bit more runway, because if, firstly, we would like to see some of these things to continue if they can. If they can't, obviously, that's a risk and a cost that the event managers taken on themselves. But we want to be able to help those businesses and give them the best information possible about the risks that are running. And so, as I say, maybe a bit more runway into these alert level changes would be helpful. It's not always doable. I understand that. There's a highly contingent environment. But I do think maybe there is a bit more to be done.
Yes, it's interesting because of that 9 o'clock announcement saying it was 6 o'clock in the morning. The reports of some business, I think it was one tattoo business, that carried on till 4 o'clock in the morning, basically fitting in as many as they possibly could. Supermarkets saying it stopped people rushing to supermarkets because a lot of them closed at 10 o'clock. So the big run didn't happen. But then, of course, you had the problems with everyone trying to get back into Auckland, and some eight or even up to 10-hour delays for people trying to get back home. And of course, these are business owners too.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think that was that was very tricky set of circumstances for people who were outside of Auckland, or less so. Well, even in some cases, people who were in Auckland, say some of those big events, and trying to get back home. So, really difficult set of circumstances, this one, and a lot of people caught in particularly tough situations. And as you say, long delays while people are questioned about where they're going, what they're doing, and where they've been. Now, look, all of this stuff is designed to try and reduce the incidence of COVID to zero in the community, right? And that's important, because if we can do that, we can get away from alert level 3 in Auckland and go back down the alert levels in the rest of the country. So it's incumbent on people to do that stuff. I do think one of the things that we're going to have to get used to is living with some of these difficult situations, like being caught in 10-hour traffic delays as you try and cross regional boundaries, like being told on a Saturday night that your business won't be opening on Sunday morning. Those are difficult situations for New Zealanders to be in, but the worst thing would be being in lockdown for prolonged periods of time. No one would want to be there, I don't think.
So it's very, very important that you've got your B plan and your C plan in place, ready to go when the announcement comes.
Yeah, I think be prepared, understand what the risks are that you're taking. And a lot of business owners do that as a right. They do it every day. And a lot of businesses have adjusted pretty well to a fairly uncertain and contingent environment. We saw that in the last 72-hour alert level 3, unable to do so without putting people at risk. And we're going to see more adaptation, I think, and innovation by businesses as they seek to be able to continue to operate knowing that this might be with us for a while. Even the vaccine won't necessarily provide complete certainty.
And of course, there's no certainty that at the end of 7 days, these alert levels are even going to change.
Yeah, I guess the best thing that you can do to ensure that we do move back down the alert levels is for people to stay in their bubbles. If they are working, stay home if you're sick, get a test if you think you might have been exposed to COVID, but ultimately stay out of the workplace if you're seeing those conditions. And for employers to support employees, there's, as we said at the start of this grant, there's support available, and we'll keep trying to work with the government to expand the scope of that.
So yes, there are 4 different packages that are available. So go to the COVID-19 website for more information. Kirk Hope, we'll talk again soon.